What's up, folks, and welcome to another Premodern Magic Online Society playoffs. We're going to be playing this time around Goblins. This is a deck that I'm very high on, and I think is quite good in the new metagame that we're seeing. I think it's one of the tier 1 decks of the format, alongside stuff like Elves and Blue-White Dreadnought, but I do expect to have sort of like an overcompensation against Dreadnought right now, so I do think that people are more likely to be playing decks that are good or very well prepared against Dreadnought, while Goblins is a deck that, even though you may be playing a deck that may be very prepared against it, it can still steal a win because the raw power level and certain draws just feel kind of unbeatable, right? So obviously this deck is, the engine is Goblin Lucky. This is your best Goblin, and is what really allows for your busted starts. Like, one of the best things that you can do is go turn 1 Lucky, turn 2 like Mog Fanatic or Gem Palm Incinerator or opponent's blockers, you connect, and then you can play something like a Ringleader or a Siege Gang Commander for free. Like, this is kind of ridiculous, honestly. When those kind of starts happen, it's kind of brutal. But it doesn't stop there. We actually have 4 Mog Fanatic as some extra 1-drops, and the same thing is true for Skirk Prospector. We have Goblin Pile Driver as our big beater. Also helps smooth out the curve, and it obviously works great with this many 1-drops. We also have War Chief, which is arguably the second best Goblin in the deck, at least it is in my opinion. This one really turbocharges your deck and allows you to do things that otherwise are kind of impossible. Like, the fact that it makes your goblins 1 less is already good enough, and the fact that it gives them haste is just kind of insane. Being able to haste something like a pile driver is ridiculous. You can just get like an extra, just casual 9 points of damage out of nowhere. It's kind of ridiculous. The same is true for Sharpshooter. Sharpshooter is, if it's a one-off, obviously we're playing 4 copies of Matron and 4 Ringleaders, so getting access to a one-off Sharpshooter is not that crazy. Just sitting in your main deck, even as a one-off, it's not only incredible in stuff like the Mirror or against something like Elves, but also if you're playing against any random deck, you just get to combo kill them with Skirk Prospector, right? Like, you can start sacking your Goblins and then tapping your Sharpshooter. Same is true with Siege Gang Commander. You can just deal a bunch of damage out of nowhere, and if you're able to set that up with haste, it becomes particularly brutal and effective. Finally, the very top end is Siege Gang Commander. This is just kind of the best thing you can be doing at 5 mana, and it's really good. 5 damage over 4 bodies is pretty solid, and then obviously it turns your kind of bad creatures in the late game, like Skirk Prospector and Mog Fanatic, just like your random 1/1s, into pretty valuable pieces of interaction. You can start shocking your opponent's stuff, or you can just start shocking your opponent's face. So, it ends up happening very often that you will, deal like 10-12 points of damage, and then you just play a Siege Gang and you slowly burn them out over the course of like 2 turns, because they can't really deal with every single thing in your board, right? So it can be very good. This is the creature suite. We also are splashing green, in case you haven't seen it yet. We have 4 Conclusive Forest, 1 Basic Forest, 1 Moss Fire Valley, 1 City of Brass, and then 4 basic, 4 with a Foothill, sorry. The reason for this is a Natural X. This is a card that is particularly impactful from this deck, because just by nature, a mono red deck, and even more specifically a mono red creature-based deck, cannot really beat a resolve Oath of Druids. So if your opponent has an Oath of Druids, then it's really hard to work through it, particularly when it shows up on turn 2 or like turn 3 with like the very early game, because before your Lucky gets to connect. Splashing for Naturalize is particularly effective out of this deck specifically. So that's why we're doing that. We also have a little bit of a disruption package in Rishadan Port and a single copy of Wasteland. The reason for this is that, Rishadan Port allows you to do something on turn 2, so you can do something like, play a Fanatic or play a Lucky on turn 1. Whether they kill it or not doesn't really matter. On turn 2, you can Rishadan Port your opponent's land in order to time walk them, and then you can play one of your many 3-drops on turn 3, while if you had a playset of Wastelands instead of this, if you Wasteland your opponent on turn 2, you achieve the same thing that Port did, but you also wastelanded yourself, right? Because you have 1 less land now, meaning that you're not going to be able to cast your 3-drops on 3. So I think in Goblins specifically, Port is just a better land disruption card than Wasteland. Specifically for that, which in my experience happens quite often. So yeah, the full playset of ports before even the first Wasteland, and then I don't have as many green sources as I wanted, but in this new metagame, I am not like super sure that I want to be going like super dependent on the naturalist. I have 11, which is not the end of the world. Like it's more than most people play, but it is not like too much. So I'm hoping to be able to cast this naturalize semi-consistently at least. In the sideboard we have Pyrokinesis, one of the best red sideboard cards in the format, fantastic in matches like the Mirror or Elves and stuff like that. Goblin Sharpshooter number 2, this card when it's good, it's really good, and I want to have access to a second copy. Goblin Tinkerer is particularly great versus deck like Dreadnought and then Mox Diamond decks, whatever those are in this new land tax free format. Then we have 2 Rebs, 2 Pyroblast, the split because of Meddling Mage, of course, and blue decks are still very prevalent in the format, so you want to have access to some form of counter magic. Then we have the 4th copy of Naturalize and 2 Tranquil Domains. The reason for Tranquil Domain being that this actually interacts with other decks that Naturalize does not necessarily interact in the best possible way. This is stuff like Enchantress and stuff like that. And again, if you're trading your Tranquil Domain for a single oath from your opponent's sides, you're still going to be pretty happy, because like you're very likely going to be winning that game. Finally, 3 copies of Tormod Script. I could be playing stuff like Phyrexian Furnace, I could be playing something like that, but the reason to be playing Tormod's Crypt and to be playing a whole 3 copies of it is that one of your, or like many of your worst matchups when you're playing Goblins are decks that Tormod's Crypt is great against. So you can think of stuff like Replenish, things like Fluctuator, things like a bunch of combo, like fast combo decks are the ones that really not allow us to race, while at the same time they just go over the top of whatever it is that we're doing. So Tormod's Crypt is there specifically for those matchups, and the fact that you get to go turn 1 lucky and play your Tormod's Crypt, or turn 3 War Chief and also play your Tormod's Crypt, really makes me want to be playing Crypt specifically, as opposed to something like Furnace, which is meant to deal with some of the more like value oriented decks, like survival decks and whatnot. So this is going to be the deck that we're going to be playing through the playoffs, so wish me luck, and I'll see you for round number 1. Alright, here we go, playing these playoffs, and this hand looks pretty good. We have double Lackey, so even if our opponent is able to answer the first one, we still have a second one going on. Should be pretty decent. Opponent is playing, I actually just played against this opponent in the regular league, so they're playing the Oath TerravOath deck. So we're gonna go turn 1 lucky there, and then we'll see where we go turn 2. My opponent can block with this Treetop Village. Obviously, if they play an Oath, we probably lose. Sphere of Resistance. All right, that's actually very good for us. Like, our port here is gonna be absolutely incredible, right? Swing, get in there, lucky. Opponent's gonna attempt to block, and then we're just gonna tap target land. Okay, so Lackey connects here, and this is actually very interesting because we can play a second Lackey and try to play like a little bit of a longer game. I think I'm just gonna go with War Chief here. So we put War Chief into play. Like, this is actually a very interesting scenario, right? Because we could have put Ringleader into play, but then we're gonna draw a bunch of cards, and then we may not necessarily find what we're looking for. Whereas War Chief is just kind of a way for me to offset this fear and to make these Goblin Lucky much better, because I can now play it still for 1, because like these cancel each other, and it's gonna have haste. So it's going to allow me to potentially connect. So if I attack with both Lackeys, what's the play here? Is there anything that I can Matron for? I can also just cast a Ringleader, but I think I want a Matron here, because my opponent has 2 things that I can block. I'm not main decking Tinkerer, so I can't answer Factory thanks to Goblin Tinkerer. This may just be like a deployment turn. Yeah, I think this is just a deployment turn. And then next turn I can just Matron into... Next turn I guess I can just Matron now so I can use my mana better. Yeah, let's just Matron now. Gonna take 1 from City. Let's Matron now. Oh, this is actually 3 mana. Oh, I'm an idiot. All right. Well, I miscounted my mana there. I forgot about the sphere. So obviously I'm not going to sack a Prospector to cast a Matron there. It just doesn't make any sense. So we're not going to swing. We're just going to sit here. Next turn we can Matron for Pile Driver, potentially. I don't think Siege Gang does too much. Obviously we lose to Oath, right? Most likely we're just going to die to an Oath, but TerravOath is actually not the end of the world. TerravOath seems kind of fine. So if I swing everything, my opponent's gonna probably block one of the lackeys, and then I get to, I guess I can Matron here. We can take this chance to Matron, go find Siege Gang. I'm gonna say yes. We're just gonna go find Siege Gang Commander. I guess I could also just go find Gem Palm and kill this TerravOath. I think going wide with Siege Gang is just gonna be better though. So we go to combat, we swing with all of the guys. My opponent's probably going to block one of these lackeys. They can also block a War Chief, but I don't think that's particularly good. I think it's much better for them to block. So we're just going to put a Siege Gang into play now and pass the turn back. My opponent is now officially at 12, meaning we can do a bunch. Oh, second factory, it's kind of bad for me. Thermokar's my land. It's okay. We got a bunch of goblins if we need to suck stuff. Pile Driver is a very good draw. So if I play Pile Driver, my opponent has a forced block, probably with the factory, and then they're probably going to block TerravOath on the lackey, and that's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 damage. That seems worth it to me, particularly because I really need to like take this chance while I can, because then next turn like we can just set up a lethal attack. Otherwise, yeah, okay, cool. Sideboarding. I think I want all of this stuff. I think I want Tinkerer. Do we want Tormod's Crypt? I'm not even sure if we want Tormod's Crypt. So Tinkerer just destroys, like absolutely annihilates factories, right? Because it just says destroy target artifact and it deals damage equals to the mana value, which is 0. So I can basically blow up factories indefinitely. I think I want to keep the one of Sharpshooter because I can see myself just having a sort of combo turn. What do I not love? I guess Fanatic. We can cut a couple of copies off. Maybe a third one. I still want to probably keep the one. Is it even going to be good? I mean, it's just so important. And just having access to 1-drops is so important at enabling Pile Drivers. So it's probably fine. I think I'm going to only have one Tranquil Domain. We'll go with this. Obviously, if my opponent, you know, like they mulligan into Oath, that's going to be pretty bad for us. But this hand's great. I mean, just keeping Lackey. Turn 1 Lackey is just going to be a keep every time, right? Opponent, once again with the turn 1. Oh, double exploration. Okay. So, play a land Lucky. Your go. Very careful there not to play the Wooded Foothills because I don't want my opponent... Ugh, there's the Oath. I'm going to pass the turn here. And War Chief. I still think I'm supposed to just go for turn 1 Lucky. Like, the upside is just so high. Now I may have to just... I guess I cycle Gem Palm Incinerator. Yeah. So let's just cycle Gem Palm and just, you know, deal 1 to the Lucky. So now we don't trigger Oath. Find a Matron. Okay. So we're not in good shape here. Curse Totem? It's not the card that I would have foreseen my opponent bringing in. That's a good draw. So we're just gonna get to... Let's play this, and I'm just gonna hold on to playing the Fanatic. Obviously, I get punished if I do draw Lucky, but I kind of want to see what my opponent's cooking with over there. So maybe, yeah, maybe they'll attack with Mishra's Factory, which is pretty good for me. And then next turn I can, you know, end step, naturalize the Oath, and then... And now we can actually play this game. Of note, Mock Fanatics is gonna be stopped by the Curse Totem. Meaning that, so colorless, green, red, there we go. So I'm not going to be able to, if they play another Oath, I'm not going to be able to like ping with Fanatic, unfortunately. So we're going to swing there. Also, I cannot Tinkerer, which sucks. That's probably like the one thing that really matters here. But I mean, it looks like my opponent doesn't have too much going on. So if I go for, so I can go fetch for a mountain, War Chief into Matron into Pile Driver. That forces the block on the Pile Driver. Is that good though? Is forcing the block on the Pile Driver even good at all? Opponent's gonna take 6 if they do that. Alternatively, I can Matron for Ringleader. I can actually Matron for Ringleader right now. So I think that's probably the better line. Go find the red source. Play Matron. Siege Gang is not particularly great here. I guess I can also go for Gem Palm. I mean, Ringleader is just so much better. Also, Ringleader trades with a factory, which I think I'm kind of interested in doing. Woof! Oh my god. Yeah, we're doing it. So everything's getting in the red zone. If my opponent wants to trade factory for my War Chief, that's fine with me. Because of note, my opponent cannot pump because of their own Curse Totem. So that's just a clean attack. And now next turn we can just go War Chief into just go nuts. At this point, an Oath doesn't even save my opponent. Because we're just going too wide. Wow. I mean, Goblins is a good archetype. That's why I chose it for these playoffs. That's cool. All right, see you for the next round. All right, here we go, round 2 of the playoffs. So this hand is actually super interesting because I can go turn 1 Fanatic, turn 2 Port my opponent, and then turn 3 Matron. This may be a trap, but I think I kind of like it. And by the way, this is one of the examples of Port just being much better than Wasteland, right? If I had 2 Wastelands here, if I actually want to do something like this, where I want to disrupt my opponent on turn 2, then I'm just stuck Wastelanding my opponent, meaning that I don't really have a path towards the Matron on turn 3. So I think that it's quite interesting like this. I mean, I just think that Port is kind of just the better card in Goblins, straight up. Okay, so now because my opponent played a Windswept Heath, and there's, you're only fetching basics in Premodern, so there's no reason to, fetch into that. So I'm just gonna play Wooded Foothills so I can hold up Naturalize. Opponent fetches on upkeep, gets Basic Forest, Mistress Factory. We're probably playing against an Oath deck. Yep. So now we get to Forest, Naturalize, get rid of that. So now that I drew that, I think I probably want to Goblin Matron off of the board. And I think I want to get Lucky, actually, which is kind of weird. But I have access to 2 of my opponents. Like, if they have Second Oath, obviously that's just terrible for me. But right now I can Wasteland one of my opponent's lands and then port the other one. So I can deploy Lucky next turn. And then it's fairly likely to connect, and I can put a Siege Gang into play. Okay. Well, this is obviously very good for me, unless they also have another Oath. Okay. So now we're going to Wasteland, then Lucky, and now we swing for 2. So I really want to find some sort of like Naturalize effect, because if my opponent has an Oath, this is obviously going to be pretty terrible for me. Although I guess Oath is potentially just fine here. Okay, so I swing. Yeah, I think I just swing. Like, if my opponent wants to destroy their own Mistress Factory, that seems fine with me. I'm just gonna swing with everybody. If they block Lucky, these can't pump because they just played it. So if they block Lucky, I just go to damage and I just ping the factory and I effectively blow up their land. Next turn I can Matron. Ha! Yeah, exactly. So they actually can't block here, which is very interesting, right? So I'm just obviously gonna ping their face, and they're gonna take 4. Lucky is gonna yield a Siege Gang Commander, and at this point, Oath doesn't do anything because next turn I'm gonna be able to just Matron into Pile Driver. That is now a forced block, and then my opponent is gonna be taking 9. Down to 1, and then they most likely are now gonna have lethal on the crackback. I'm assuming they find the TerravOath, right? Which is the only way that this game just doesn't end immediately. Yeah, exactly. So once again, playing against the mono green deck, which is pretty funny. I think I do want all of these, and I probably want Tinkerer. And what do I not want? Sharpshooter seems kind of medium. I mean, there's always some combo potential. Like Sharpshooter is basically never ever dead because there's always the potential of just kind of comboing out with it, thanks to Scare Prospector. So it's never entirely dead, but it doesn't look like it's gonna be particularly great here. And what else? I think I'm gonna cut some Fanatics. 2 of them, maybe 3 of them. Yeah, let's go with that. Obviously, this is gonna make my... Okay, that's good. Yeah, this hand seems okay. So if my opponent has an Oath, I have the answer to it. If they don't, I can just play a Pile Driver, start beating down. That's pretty good. That's pretty good for my opponent, for sure. Turn 1 Sphere. That is strong. That is quite strong. And I'm such a fan of this card. I think this card is... Whoa! Alright. So I can't even play a Lackey here? Woof. That's devastating. Wow, if they had not had the second Sphere, I would have been able to play Lackey and kind of run away with this game, but... Oath. Okay. Yeah, just can't do anything here. That was a heck of a draw for my opponent. I'm gonna let this go, and I'm going to, I guess, discard one of these Pile Drivers. So I need to hit, like, land into land. If I hit land into land, maybe we can do something here. Because my goal is gonna be, obviously, to, like, first blow up one of the spheres. That's going to ease my mana a little bit. Here my opponent's gonna upkeep, tap my valley, which is fine. That's not a land. Send the turn back. Opponent activates Factory and gets in there. This looks not great for me. Once again, Valley is gonna get tapped here. Oh, they tapped my Foothills? I was not expecting that. I mean, not that it really matters, I guess. Gonna throw away a Prospector here. I mean, as long as I don't find lands, this is just not gonna work out, right? So, if they are Terravore, I'm probably just gonna... Oh, Thermal Karst. Yeah, we're just gonna pack it in now. Alright, so game number 3. Wow, that looked very strong from my opponent's side. Do I want to change anything? I don't think so. Man, turn 1 Sphere into turn 2 Sphere plus Port? Jesus. Okay, so I'm on the play and I have a turn 1 Lucky, so I'm gonna keep this. My opponent just is not very likely to have many answers to a turn 1 Lucky besides, like, just turn 1 Oath. Oh, come on. You can't have turn 1 Oath. Okay, cool. I guess that's another way to answer this. Whoopsies. So I need to... If I had found the green source, that would have been like an insane blowout. Like, I get to just blow up the factory on combat, and I get to, like, put a Siege Gang into play. Ugh, that sucks. The good thing is at least my opponent can't really tap out here. Green source. Hey. So I'm just gonna play out the Prospector here. So it's gonna give me the most amount of flexibility. Because my opponent does not know that I have a Naturalize. And here, if they play something... I can potentially, like, naturalize one of their cards and potentially allow for a Lucky to connect. There's a Foothills and they fetch. So it kind of feels like I'm throwing away a Prospector, but if I choose to not naturalize, then this is, this gives me a way to at least develop my board a little bit, right? Which otherwise I can't really do. Suran Orb. Yeah, that's fine. Don't care too much about that one. Yeah, so you see here, like, I obviously do not want to naturalize, and I just kind of left my... just left the option available. Sphere of Resistance. Sure. So now I'm just gonna be able to connect with Lucky, which is nice. That's cool, because that's just a land. So, swing with the boys before damage. They're gonna get to gain 2 life, so that's decent value, I guess. So they take 3, and here's a Siege Gang Commander. There's Oath. There is Oath. So what's the play here? So we swing. I swing with everything. They take 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I can play a Matron, and I can get another Siege Gang, so that's 8 damage. I have to keep in mind that my opponent can start sucking lands to Suran Orb. So I can put another Siege Gang into play. If I do that, then what happens? My opponent gets a Terravore in play. I do think that I need to just play this Matron first. I kind of take it from there. So we play Matron. Huh. I guess that what I can do here is I can go for... So, one option that's kind of interesting is I can sack 4 goblins and play a second matron, get Tinkerer, then... No, that's just too convoluted. I don't think that really achieves anything for me. I think I'm just gonna go super crazy wide with Siege Gang Commander here. And we're just gonna swing for 8 here, opponent down to 10, potentially 16. So that's a Siege Gang. Next turn I can play another Matron. My opponent's gonna have 1 blocker for... I don't have lethal here, right? Like, so every 3 goblins is 2 damage because I use 2 for mana and then 1 to shock. I'm very far away from lethal, so I'm gonna need to deal some more damage next turn. I think that we're just going around this oath. Like, sure, my opponent's gonna get... They're gonna get a TerravOath here. That's fine. That's a free blocker, of course. Like, it's not great for me, but it's also not terrible. I have the Wasteland, so they only have exactly 1 blocker. My opponent's at a virtual 16, and this is much more than 16 damage. Now, assuming they block Siege Gang, which is kind of their best block, they're taking 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, so they're going to have to suck a bunch of lands. They play Library? Okay, so now I think they are dead. They're just dead to, like, Siege Gang dealing them a bunch of damage, I think. Yeah, that's just the power of Goblin Lackey, right? So, you know, if both of those were fetching a Phoenix, obviously I would be super, super mega dead, right? But the fact that it's fetching a TerravOath means that I can just work... If I can, you know, set up this situation, I can just kind of work around it. But that was a cool match. This deck is very strong. I am really impressed by this deck. I think it's very, very good. Alright, see you next round. Alright, so this is the semifinals. Man, this is the kind of hand that... I honestly have no idea whether I should be keeping or not. I want to say that I should mulligan this. Man, it's just so close, right? I have no idea what I'm playing against. I'm on the play. So I can go turn 2 Pile Driver. And then if I find a land, I can go for Matron or Sharpshooter. Like, these in particular is a card that can kind of run away with certain matchups. But... on the blind, I don't even know if it's gonna be good. Obviously, if I'm playing against elves, I'm gonna be really sad that I let this hand go. I think I'm gonna mulligan. I think I'm actually gonna mulligan this hand. And this hand looks both better and worse at the same time. I think I'm gonna keep this one though. I'm gonna bottom this Siege Gang. I can always go get it if I need to. I'm gonna go turn 1 Prospector, pass the turn back. Let's see what we're up against. You gotta be kidding me. Okay, so it's not the TerravOath deck once again. Alright, so I'm definitely killing this Bird of Paradise, like almost regardless of which matchup I'm actually playing against. So there's a Mountain, Mog Fanatic, kill your bird, pass the turn. Gotta give my opponent respect for having the foiled bird there, you know. I think I'm gonna pop this goblin and I'm gonna go for a War Chief here. I think that I'm gonna need to like start pulling ahead, and War Chief allows me to do exactly that. Obviously, if they have like any removal spell here for my poor War Chief, that's gonna be sad, but it is what it is. Okay, so that worked out great. So I can just naturalize the deed and get in there for 2. We're playing against it could be Natural Order Rock, or it could be just normal Rock. Okay, that sucks. So now I have to sack the War Chief there. Drawing Naturalize is effectively a blank, so I'm on a mulligan. Yeah, I really wish I had kept my first hand now. If this is Hermit, this is gonna be really, really hard to beat now. It's a Lackey that doesn't do anything. I am insanely far behind at this point. I'm just gonna play out this Lackey, and maybe my opponent is gonna, you know, hold back. Like, I just need my land drops, right? This is the kind of hand that could have beaten what my opponent was doing, but I just cannot after having missed, like, infinite land drops, right? I kept... okay, yeah, that's gonna be an unbeatable late game, so... Alright, moving on to game number 2. We're playing against The Rock, and I don't think that we have anything really for this matchup. Low-key interested in Pyrokinesis over the Naturalizes, maybe? Like, Naturalize just, you know, it can blow up. Oh, never mind. I'm an idiot. Of course, they're going to have Engineer play. Like, what am I even talking about? Of course, the Naturalizes are great. Never mind. I'm just stupid. Obviously, Naturalize is much better. So we want, I guess, do we just keep 3 Naturalizes and just literally not change a card? I definitely would Mog Fanatic. This would, if I were playing against Lanny Rock, I would be cutting some number of Mog Fanatics, which are not really going to do too much, but my opponent showed me Birds of Paradise, and, you know, Mog Fanatic obviously is fantastic versus birds. I could also see having a second Sharpshooter, as, like, Sharpshooter just kills, like, any amount of squirrels, right? So maybe that's worth having access to. And all of these cards are bangers. I think I'm going to cut 1 Prospector. I'm just going to cut 1 of the Naturalizes. I'm going to have access to 3 of them. Seems reasonable enough. Okay, what do we got here? Yeah, this hand looks great. Let's keep this one. Yeah, this is the kind of hand that can very easily run away with the game. So my plan is going to be obviously to play the Lucky on turn 1. And then I can hopefully connect. And then I play... Like, I'm just going all in here, right? So I'm going to play a Pile Driver, then play a Fanatic, and play a Lucky. I can basically incinerate whatever they play. Obviously, if they have turn 3 Plague, that's gonna suck, but it is what it is. Chainer's Edict. I think I'm sacking one of these Luckies, actually. The reason being... oh man, can't even Wasteland anything here. I think I'm gonna cycle one of these two. I think I'm actually gonna cycle one of these. This is a May, so I'm just gonna say here, and I'm just gonna say no, then draw a card. Okay, so my goal obviously there was to try to draw something, but now if they have Engineered Plague on turn 3, that's gonna be kind of pretty bad for me. I mean, it's gonna undo a bunch of the work that I did here to get some damage in, and they have exactly that. That sucks. All right, so I'm gonna ping my opponent for 1 there, and this game is going to slow down to a crawl now. I mean, I can just draw something good here, right? So, pass the turn back here. Definitely blowing up the Dust Bowl is the way to go there. I want to slow this game down. Was considering the possibility of cycling Gem Palm there. I guess if I draw another Pile Driver, it's probably good for me to do that. I'm gonna say no, and I draw another blank. I feel like I am 1 Ringleader away from just winning the game. Okay, so here's a Matron that's gonna die, and I have some options here because I can. I'm just gonna get Ringleader and just hope that. Oh, I could just go get War Chief. No, because like whatever I get, unless it's a Pile Driver, my opponent can just. They can just therapy it away. That sucks. Yeah, I'm just gonna Ringleader. Alright, I'm just gonna hope that my opponent does not have a therapy. If they do, that's obviously gonna be terrible for me, but... Oh, don't have a second one. Oh, that's brutal. So... I can Ringleader here. Yeah, I mean, so this game is... It doesn't make sense for me to Ringleader because my opponent, if they do have a therapy, they're just gonna, you know, just therapy me. So... Yeah, this game is just not working out here. I really need to find... The good thing is I can go like Naturalize into Ringleader into like continue playing this game. Okay, so at least we have Port, which allows me to slow down my opponent a little bit. It's not like great or anything, but it is something. Plague Spitter. Okay. I mean, that deals some damage to my opponent, so that's cool. Upkeep, tap, take 2, Naturalize. Okay. Okay, so Naturalize one of these. We maybe get to play a little bit more. Get a couple of these. Okay, okay. All right. So I could have found. Maybe I should have like done the Richard and Port thing there. I don't know. Because I could have ported my opponent Treetop. Also, I just realized Plague Spitter plus Deranged Hermit it's not a combo. Just realized that. Not the best combo I've ever seen. I'll say as much. So I can just play this Siege Gang and then like suck it to kill the Plague Speeder. Do I kind of want to go face? They have Bailoff? Oh, that's brutal. Yeah, I just took... Okay, alright. Alright. So I can naturalize here. That is 2 mana. Then I'm going to have 6 mana. So I can go naturalize, kill Plague. Then I can go Prospector into Siege Gang. I think I want to sandbag the Sharpshooter. So if I go Prospector into Siege Gang, I can sack some dudes to kill the Plague Speeder. So this is going to be 2 damage. This is going to be 1, so I'm at 10. Then I take 4, 5, 6 down to 2. Down to 4, sorry. Then I untap and I Siege Gang plus Blow Up Spitter. My opponent's at 8. I can deal 2 more to them. If I play Prospector, I can deal 2 more. This is a very, very close turn. I think I just pass the turn. And I just upkeep port them. Obviously, I'm going to port the Treetop. So I take 6. We're out of Gem Palms, which sucks, obviously. They have second Bailoff. Brutal. Okay, so naturalize on end step. Untap. That's a Matron. So 1, 2, 3 to Matron. 1, 2, 3 to... Yeah, that doesn't work. I don't have enough. Man, this is brutal. I'm just gonna get trampled into Oblivion, I think. So if I Matron into Warchief, I only have 3 mana left. Meaning I can play a Prospector, but then it just gets killed by Plague Spitter. So Matron also gets killed by Spitter. So I just chomp, and I just take lethal. So that doesn't work. If I play Siege Gang, all of my dudes get killed by the Spitter as well. And I can only shoot 1 of them at my opponent's face. So that doesn't help either. So I can throw 2 dudes at my opponent's face. That puts my opponent down to 2. Oh my god, that's so close. And then I just die to the Treetop Village. Actually, I can bring them down to 1 because I can kill the Plague Spitter. Obviously, they can sack one of the Bailots, right? But, I mean, I think I have to do this. Gonna play Siege Gang. Gonna play Prospector. And I can pay 2 and sack one of these. Then I can pay 2 and sack another one. That kills the Bailoff. Kills Plague Spitter. But then I just die to the Treetop, so it doesn't really help me. Man, this sucks. So I was exactly 1 turn too late, which is pretty devastating. I don't think there's any line that gets me out of this. I think that's it. Yeah, I think the second Bailoff kind of got me. I think I could have beaten one of these Bailots, but I could not beat both. Because I can just chump... I can chump one of them, and then I can just like tap the Treetop Village, and then I just trade with the Plague Spitter. So if my opponent had only one of these Bailots, I would have been able to get there, but 2 of them was exactly enough. And next turn I would have been able to just like Matron into Warchief into Sharpshooter. Yeah, I think I'm just out. That sucks. So go face, sack 1, sack 1, sack the dude. It's also brutal that these are 4/4s instead of 3/3s, right? I could have beaten 3/3s, could just like blow up both of my opponent's dudes. But I can't beat 4/4s. Brutal. Alright, GG's opponent. Well played. Well, that's it for the incredible run with Goblins in Premodern. I am still very, very high on this deck. I think it's super, super strong. And, you know, we did see a little bit of the... I don't want to say the fail case necessarily, but we did see a little bit of the weakness of the deck, right? Like, you are playing a deck in a format that has some very, very strong answers. So this is one of the beauties of Premodern, and why I love this format so much, is because for every Goblin Lackey that you have access to, first of all, Goblin Lackey is not something like Ragavan, right? Like you don't need anything else to happen. You just play your Ragavan on turn 1 and you just win the game, right? Like you don't need anything else to happen for that to go right for you. With Goblin Lackey, you need some business, right? Like you need more cards, and you need those cards to do something. Like in this case, I put a pile driver in play, but it just was not enough. Like my opponent was able to play one of the Haymakers in Engineered Plague, and then they were able to just get there with you know, with just like the answer being better than my threat. Also, I want to say if I had had a port in that last game, I'm pretty sure that I win, which is funny, like one of the many reasons why I do like port that much more than Wasteland. But I drew my 1 of Wasteland instead of my one of my 4 ports, and my opponent went, you know, basic into Engineer Plague. If I had been able to like port my opponent on their upkeep on that turn turn 3, then they're not going to be able to play the Wasteland, and I would have been able to like swing with Pile Driver twice, which then would have rendered my opponent's attack force on the subsequent turns a lot worse, right? Like, because I would have started porting their basic forest. They're not going to be able to deploy their thing in time, their Veil in time, and then they can never play their Spud, their you know, little potato, which ended up you know, finishing the game, because it made my siege gang not very good, and they can make matron, etc. You know, so if I had gotten my opponent to a low enough life total, maybe I would have been able to swing that game in my favor. You know, one of the main reasons why port, I think it's just a better card in this deck than Wasteland. But that's one of the reasons why I like Premodern so much. You know, like the fact that you have some very, very powerful threats, but first of all, they need more stuff, and then second of all, there's like equally powerful answers, right? So you know, you have Dreadnought, but you also have Swords to Plowshares. You know, you can't do much better than that. So that is why you know, this deck is very, very strong, and I'm still really high on it, but it is very beatable as well. So yeah, if you enjoy the match, actually, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. And if you enjoy the format, it's my favorite thing ever, and I think it's straight up the best format in Magic. So if you're interested in joining the MTGO leagues, feel free to, you know, like contact me in the Discord, or like wherever you want. I'm not too active on Twitter anymore, but if you want to contact me there, I may take a day or two to get back to you. But I'm always down to help some people play some Premodern. As you see, you know, the Magic Online Society is fantastic. It has some great tournament structures where you have, you know, like the leagues, and then you also have these cool playoffs happening as well. So super, super sweet. Hopefully you enjoyed it. See you in the next video, folks. Take care. Bye bye.